Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new video. The last two videos I've made were kind of boring, and so today I'm going to do a little bit of a lighter topic, not necessarily about science and these things, even though obviously science is omnipresent in our lives, but I'm going today to talk about cannibalism. Cannibalism of the self-inflicted kind. Okay, so what do I mean by this? Basically, I'm going to talk about eating yourself, your own flesh. Not necessarily for sustenance, and I'll get into that a bit later, but you know, for fun. Jesus, sorry about that. Let me just deal with this. Okay. Well, yes. So I'm going to talk about self-cannibalism, autoanthropophagia. In other words, if you want to use Greek, autoanthropophagia. If you want to use English, self-cannibalism. And if you, yeah, I was going to say it in French, but it's pretty much the same. So yeah. What exactly is self-cannibalism? Well, there's a bunch of different kinds of self-cannibalism, actually, because you have obviously the typical kind, which I say most of everybody practices every day, which is, you know, eating like dead skin, or a pig dead skin of your fingers, or I don't know if people if you know about this clip of a streamer XQC eating his own toenails. This type of stuff, in my opinion, is self-cannibalism, because cannibalism has kind of got a bad rep, if I may say, in that, you know, when you hear it, you hear like, you imagine people eating entire people and killing them to do so, right? When it could not be further from the truth. A lot of cannibalism does not involve murder or even, you know, harming people. It's just like, especially self-inflicted, you're not harming others. You're arguably not even harming yourself. But that's, you know, that's what I'm trying to prove today. But everybody can agree that you're not harming other people. So yeah. Oh, again. So yeah, like people picking dead skin off their fingers and eating their nails, or, you know, sometimes you bite your lip or your tongue and a little more comes out. And I mean, I can't say that I hate it, right? To the point where, and I mean, yes, everything I'm going to say comes from a very deep personal experiences, obviously, because that's all I can talk about, really. And but like, sometimes you bite a little more than you can chew, so to say, when you bite your tongue, and a little bit of, you know, flesh comes. And do I hate it? I mean, I would love to pretend that I hate it and I find it disgusting, and I would never ever do that, but because that would make me normal, right? But as much as I hate to say it, I think it's the way for everybody, because, okay, much like a lot of things, or hatred or fear or disgust of cannibalism comes from, you know, some form of education, or at least conditioning, or social what's normal, right? I don't think, like a lot of things in humanity, that self-cannibalism and cannibalism in general is horrific, the way that people seem to think. Because I think, okay, take the Catholic practice of transubstantiation, right? I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. Transubstantiation, right? Which is basically, if you're not Catholic, you might not know, but during Mass, at some point in Mass, the priest is going to take a glass or a cup of wine or grape juice, and is going to turn it, also a little wafer, which is basically like, I don't know, a cookie, I don't know, like a small piece of paper basically that you eat, and is going to say that this wine becomes the blood of Christ, and the wafer becomes the body of Christ, right? And you might think this is a symbolic practice, and I mean, it does come off as symbolic, but it is supposed to literally be the body of Christ. So every single Catholic, and probably a bunch of other denomination of Christianity who believe in transubstantiation, whatever that name is, practice cannibalism, at least on a weekly basis. And I don't know why I should not then do that, because everything that we do during Mass, I mean, I can do outside of Mass, right? I can pray outside of Mass. I can sing hymns outside of Mass. I can, sit on a pew outside of Mass. Why should I not be able to eat other people outside of Mass? There's nothing that when I leave the church, there's nobody and nothing telling me you cannot do this outside of this place. It's not. I mean, at this point, it becomes a cult, right? So, if you're a Christian, a Catholic, I don't know why you would be against cannibalism. And I mean, you might argue that because you do it with Christ, and this is the only person you do it with, that doing it with anybody would be akin to blasphemous, because you're pretending that some random is Christ. And I think it's a bit short-sighted to say that, because you don't know who's going to be the Christ. And I mean, getting eaten alive is very Christ-like. I mean, I don't know what else to say at this point. Like, and whenever I try to eat someone, they might be the Christ, and I don't know, And okay, nobody wants to be the bad guy of a story, right? Like, most people want to be the good guy, but like, is Pontius Pilate really the bad guy in the story of Christ? Like, not really. He was, he became a saint. He was considered a saint because, the death of Christ was written in the stars, and, the person actively doing it was also part of some sort of prophecy and of history, and very important, because if he hadn't died, then this whole thing wouldn't exist. So, well, if he had died naturally, I mean. So, this is kind of like, and if you're not Christian, I can understand. And if you're an atheist, I mean, why are you even repulsed by cannibalism, to be honest? Because as an atheist myself, I find myself sometimes pondering, like, what's stopping me from eating people? And I look into my soul, and to be honest, it's just the residual influence of Christianity in French culture that have taught me that it's bad. And honestly, it's not. Clearly not. Be it within or outside of Catholicism. So that's my first point, right? Another point that you might bring up, and I actually lost my train of thought there, but um, is that, yeah, as I said, I'm not even talking about the kind of Hannibal Lecter type of cannibalism, right? I'm not hunting humans for sport type of cannibalism, and doing fine dining with that. I'm just saying, like, eating human and parts of humans is kind of normal, especially if it's yourself. And I mean, when you're cooking food, obviously a lot of dead skin is gonna get into the food. Right? That's only natural. So you're eating parts of yourself, and when you're eating someone else's food, the same. It's the same. You're eating someone else's body, at least part of it. And you might say, like, dead body are fine to eat then. And when you look at how society sees necrophagia, which is the eating of corpses, human corpses, I mean, clearly it's not okay. And I mean, I kind of get that, because there's the whole hygiene thing, which is kind of a big deal when you're eating people, even when they're alive, to be honest. But like, once they're dead, I mean, unless you've really like put effort into conserving the body, it's going to be really, really gross, really, really fast. So really, I'm not advocating for cannibalism, first of all. I'm advocating for to reconsider cannibalism under another lens that might help us improve our lives. And the first step of that is obviously to consider auto-cannibalism in the different ways that it exists in society. And people who eat their nails, people who eat their dead skin, people who cook, and pretty much every single person in humanity is always eating people. And when you get on the cosmic level as well, the vegetables you bought were probably grown in the soil that was made up of at least some human remains, and the soil contained remnants of dead humans that made up its chemical composition, and that then went into your food through, the plant eating the soil. And then you're eating the plant, which is made up of dead human parts. So basically, eating anything is cannibalism, right? And so why would we not jump a few steps and just go straight to eating the people while they're alive? Because you can't really ask someone who died thousands of years ago if it's okay to eat the remains of their dead self, but you can ask someone who's alive, and they can obviously consent to it. And which, I mean, basically what I'm saying is, eating humans that are still alive is ethically better than eating vegetables that have been grown in soil that might be made up of dead humans. And, that might seem harsh, because, I mean, I'm basically advocating for an 100% cannibalistic diet. And I mean, that's not what I'm doing, obviously, because you have to consider that you could make up your own soil, or even try into aquaculture and these kind of things, where basically you're very, very quickly putting every single chance of a human being involved, at least human flesh being involved, at a very low percentage, so you can still do whatever you want. But this is obviously a very cosmic level. Maybe some people are gonna say, like, it doesn't matter, because a molecule is a molecule. I mean, and I do agree to some extent, and I mean, that's just to influence, at least to at least maybe make you rethink things, to bring you to a state where you're not as closed off, and there's a lot of social stigma around cannibalism, and like people are prompt to justify it and to say yeah, it's justified. But when you look at social stigmas of the past, not all of them were really justified and based in objective reality, right? Like racism, it used to be a big thing, and it is a social stigma of some sort, like being a certain race or ethnicity was considered to be bad. And obviously, that's not the case anymore, and that's good. And we can all agree that people who are racist are bad, and people back then, you can't really blame them for that because what's done is done, but it's better left in the past. And I think this is one of those. Cannibalism is one of those stigmas, which is kind of like the hatred of cannibalism is akin to racism to me, because in a few, maybe 20 years, people are going to be like, why did we not eat people? Good question, because okay, I'm going to raise another point, which is maybe convince you even more. What are blood transfusions but intravenous cannibalism? I'll just say this, leave you a few seconds to think about it, take it in. Right? And I'll say it again now that you're, calmer and thought more ready to accept it. Blood transfusions are IV cannibalism. And I mean, a lot of people don't really like blood transfusion when they're doing it just for the sake of it, right? Usually blood transfusions are only involved in very medical situations, and if they're not, usually that means you're dealing with someone who is too rich and doesn't know what to do with their money. But I mean, it's done, and it's not really, it's not socially acceptable, but I think the problem with this kind of cannibalism is not necessarily the cannibalism, because people accept it under some conditions, but it's the IV part, the fact that some people are using resources that somebody who really needs it might need and won't be available, right? That's the aspect that people don't like about recreational IVs, blood IVs, but like blood transfusions or whatever. But like when it's used in a medical concept, I don't think anybody would bat an eye, except maybe Jehovah's Witness. But like Jehovah's Witness are really like, their beliefs can generally be considered insane. I think nobody is gonna, unless you're Jehovah's Witness, I don't think you're gonna disagree with that characterization. And you don't want to be insane and think like a Jehovah's Witness, which is a person which is deeply enrolled in a sect, in a cult that they can't get out of because their thought patterns have been conditioned. You don't want to do that, right? And therefore, you should accept cannibalism as the ethically gray thing it is. Not necessarily. I'm advocating for it to be ethically gray, not necessarily ethically bad or good, right? I'm not saying do it, but I'm saying let people do it who do it. You know what I mean? And another reason that you might want to eat, this one is to appeal to the vegans and the animal rights activists among you. Humans are not the only sentient creature or intelligent creature on Earth, but they are the only one who can easily give consent to being eaten, as opposed to pigs, which are by all means very intelligent creatures and sentient by all definitions of the word, but cannot really give consent. I mean, that's why bestiality is bad. You're not supposed to do bestiality because animals can't give consent. So they can't really consent to being eaten either, obviously. But humans can. You can go up to someone and say, "Can I eat you?" And they're like, I mean, sure. Go ahead. And they can say no, which is the most important, right? You can go up to a pig and say, "Do you want to be eaten?" It's going to be like, well, I don't speak English. And they're not even going to be able to say that because they don't speak English, but or any human language for that matter. But you get the point, right? I think as a vegan, the only meat that's okay to eat is human flesh for this very reason. And I mean, that's not to say that every vegan should start eating people. You should do whatever you want, but I'm just saying if you're feeling, peckish, you might want to try. I'm just putting it out there. Some people might say, going on another register, that human meat is improper for human consumption because it contains parasites and things that are okay to be in your body, but once you get them in your body via the digestive systems, it becomes dangerous to eat. And I mean, while that is true, that is very true, and that's something that I take very seriously. I mean, a lot of fish, when eaten, even cooked improperly, are also very dangerous to eat. They contain parasites and stuff like that. That is very dangerous for human consumption, and poison even. But like, people still eat sushi, right? And sashimi and stuff like that, because when raw fish is properly cooked, prepared, not necessarily cooked in the case of sushi, but prepared correctly, I mean, it becomes completely fine to eat. And I think that's the same with human. I mean, obviously, like the few people we know who do cannibalism on the regular don't really are not always the sanest, and obviously therefore not always the cleanest, and which is why maybe there's a stigma around this the hygiene of cannibalism. But I think, get a few food scientists on the case, and you'll be done in a few months. We will find probably a very easy way to prepare even human sashimi, perhaps. And I mean, when you're like me, and you start eating the dead flesh of your dead skin and flesh of your tongue, I mean, that's human sashimi. It's not cooked. So I mean, it's dead. So it's more like eating roadkill, but not on the road. Unless, I mean, the mouth kind of is a road for food and other things, if you're freaky. But for me, it's mostly food and drink and medication and stuff like that. By the way, medication as well is a big problem, because obviously the medication we feed animals to make it proper for our consumption are used and given to them in a way that they don't, at least in theory, end up in their food, and are not, if they do, don't have negative health effects. And I mean, human medication is not thought out in this way at all, and I think it would be dangerous to do it if you're for instance, you would not want to eat a chemotherapy patient, because we don't really know the effect it has on someone who would eat the flesh of a chemotherapy patient. Like, I mean, as much as I like to advocate for cannibalism, I don't think you should do that. Obviously, there are a lot of practitioners of cannibalism who do it very wrong, and they give, I was gonna say us, but I'm not a cannibal, but they give cannibals a bad rap. And okay, once again, I think, as I said earlier, that the distaste people have for cannibalism stems from maybe cultural things, and like one argument for that is that, I mean, a lot of during maybe the 18th, 17th, 19th centuries, during the era of exploration and stuff like that, a lot of remote tribes were encountered and met for the first time Occidental people like us. And when these Occidental people met them, most of them were very extremely racist and took them for cannibal and used this myth of the cannibal to, justify doing anything to them. Like, they are insane and cannibals, they're gonna eat you, like, I can do whatever I want, they're not human, right? And this is obviously not good. I mean, a lot of tribes and people that were described as cannibals were in fact not cannibals, and it was a myth used to dehumanize them. So think about that a little bit. Calling someone a cannibal is dehumanizing. That's the first thing. According to who? To people who were deeply racist. And they used this demonization of cannibals as a way to justify their violence towards indigenous people. So, in a way, when you are being disgusted by cannibalism as a thing, when it's done, ethically, you are reproducing the ethical and psychological and societal patterns that were exhibited by, colonialists, slavers and stuff like that. And I don't think it's a good thing to keep this way of thinking alive, even if you think that cannibalism is wrong. I don't agree with that, obviously, but if you do, I don't think that using the way these people characterize cannibals and stuff like that as a way to justify it being wrong is a good thing at the end of the day, because first of all, it stops you from thinking about these things critically, but also you're perpetrating racial inequality to people who might not even deserve it, and you might not even know, but these thought patterns are definitely of another time, let's say, not necessarily wrong. I do think they are wrong according to today's standard, but back then, they were probably also wrong, but differently so. And I think that's the case with cannibalism. It's not wrong today, and if it's wrong, if you think it's wrong for different reasons that it's wrong back then, right? You know what I mean? So I think it's important to think about these things, especially like if you are a very neurotic person and you spend a lot of time eating your nails and stuff like that, and just biting your tongue, and you're like absent-mindedly chewing on your own dead skin and stuff like that, you might want to rethink your view of cannibalism, right? Because it's only gonna end up making you hate yourself, Because if you hate cannibalism but you practice it on the regular, even if you don't realize it's cannibalism, your subconscious mind is going to identify these thought patterns, and they're going to make you hate yourself unconsciously. So I think it's better to embrace a little bit of cannibalism. And if you happen upon someone who, once they die, wants to keep their body in a hygienic state for people to eat, I don't think people should be ashamed of that. I really don't. And I mean, a lot of the stigma around cannibalism, I think, stems from the fact that people are afraid to ask, right? The reason in my opinion, the reason people do it illegally and unethically is because it's illegal to do. And if it were legal, or at least decriminalized, people would start doing it in safer ways that would not end up, like, imagine you're a rabid cannibal. And all you want to do for your whole life is eat someone, people. Maybe a steak would be enough, but you want to try human meat. And for your whole life, people say your instinct is wrong. You should not do this. This is evil. This is bad. This makes you unhuman. You're less than me if you think that, your whole life. This will fuck you up, as a person. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? When it comes to racism, people would agree, right? So why not cannibalism? You know what I mean? And obviously, these people who have been discriminated against because of this benign desire they have, will obviously lash out and become insane. They might, not all of them. Clearly, I haven't. I mean, not that that's something I identify with, but yes. Hannibal Lecter probably would not have become a murderer had he the opportunity to try human steak when he was a kid, and people would have said, yes, this is human meat, this is right, and he would have eaten it and been like, yeah, I mean, it's not that good and it's a bit firm, I'm not going to eat this ever again. And obviously it would have been fine. He would not have committed all those crimes, and nobody would have talked about him. The late great Hannibal Lecter, as one orange man one put. So that's my thoughts on cannibalism, and coming from someone who practices auto-cannibalism from time to time. Tell me what you think. Maybe I hope I changed your mind, and if I haven't, at least I tried.